Global mail to the US has been disrupted due to a policy change. A July 2025 executive order by President Trump ended the $800 duty free exemption. Starting August 29, all parcels, regardless of value, must meet new customs and data rules. The new tariffs are steep. Countries with less than 15% of US tariffs will pay $80 per parcel. Between 16 and 25% of tariffs, $160. Over 25% tariffs, $200 per parcel. Duties must now be prepaid and customs data must be transmitted in advance, creating a logistical chaos.
这个问题呢，是全世界邮政呢都共同
This
面对
issue
的
is
问题。
one that postal services around the world are facing together. It mainly stems from airlines being unable to carry out such shipments due to the tariffs involved. As a result, we had no choice but to make a difficult decision. That's why, as of yesterday, we officially ceased handling low value duty free parcels, and starting today, we are suspending the acceptance of such
从
items.
今天开始，
More than 25 countries have suspended or paused mail services to the US, including India Post. Others include DHL and Deutsche Post of Germany, La Poste of France, Royal Mail of the UK, Australia Post, and Postal Services of Japan, South Korea, Spain, Belgium, among others.
The courier post is continuously consulting with customs agents approved by US customs authorities. We are planning to resume US shipments via express mail service within 1 or 2 months if possible.
Letters, documents, and gifts under $100 are still exempt, but everything else faces steep tariffs or fees. Global e commerce has been disrupted, shipments delayed, platforms scaling back, and small businesses hit hard. Pro Trump analysts, however, say it may boost US manufacturing and shift sourcing to Mexico or Canada, but the transition is easier said than done. The Economic Brief, DD India.
Well, Dr. Kapoor is still with us. Dr. Kapoor, is there a case, for privatization of the US Postal Service?
Oh, I think you can debate it in terms of saying that whether there's a case for privatization of a US Postal Service or not. But the larger issue is that we have a fairly obnoxious policy or trade policy that US is really trying to do. In fact, I've just written a piece wherein I've said that, Donald Trump should be seen as the third Antichrist. And who were the first two Antichrists? Like the first one was Napoleon, second was Hitler. And here is Donald Trump because he's hurting the world and his own citizens from these, sorry to say the word, but idiotic actions. And I'm absolutely surprised as to how, shallow thinking can actually happen within policy making. But having said that, it is not about privatization of the postal service. You have to move goods from one country to the other. There are 25 postal services or 25 countries which are really going to have the negative impact. So how do you move goods is a bigger question. Because this whole de minimis thing in terms of that used to exist for parcels which were $800 or less, you could just move them away or move them into the country. But suddenly now you're saying everything is going to be taxed, everything has to be tariffed, the tariffs have to be paid in full or before the shipment goes out. So there are going to be challenges for their citizens. Of course, it does create issues for small traders within our country as well or other countries as well. But it has a larger impact on the consumers there. Everything is going to get expensive out there. I think the numbers will show within the next 3 months that US is inflating without a doubt. And that's what it is. So this trade war that Donald Trump has unleashed on the world, or what I would call is the third world war of sorts, it's an economic war. It's a weaponization of trade. And it is going to have a huge detrimental impact on US. And that's what it would be seen as.
Dr. Kapoor, how is this weaponization of trade going to play out in the sense that, President Trump, he's under the impression that, and he's saying it all the time, that these tariffs and other increases are raking in trillions of dollars for the US Treasury?
Oh, so, again, I do not know what economic principles he's been talking about. I've been an economist. I actually have been studying economies for a large number of years. The last time and the kind of tariffs that you're talking about happened during the Deep Recession and during the First World War, so 1900s. And suddenly you're talking about tariffs which are so huge. So when the tariffs were happening at that point in time, look at what happened to the world. Look at what was happening to the US economy. It was going through the most tumultuous phases of growth itself. So I do not know what economics are you really talking about. And when you talk about it as raking in trillions of dollars, those trillions of dollars or whatever you're saying is effectively a tax that is being levied on the citizens of the US, not anybody else. We need to fundamentally understand that. Like it might actually be something that goes to the treasury in the US, but eventually it has to be paid for by the consumers in the US. Because if you are selling a good, if it is a pen which is selling for $10 and there is an additive tax of say 50% on it, then suddenly it is $15. Like when the consumer will have to pay for it. So I do not know what mathematics or what economic logic goes behind it. It totally defies the very idea of how trade needs to happen. You're fundamentally breaking down the global trade order. And that is effectively going to have a detrimental impact on the US. But countries like India will surmount those set of issues because, like the biggest thing about India is that we are a very resilient internal market. And what the Prime Minister has said, let's produce in India and let's produce for India. And the market will really move up. So Atmanirbharta is the solution for such a negative policy or short-sighted view of what the world is. In fact, what I would say is like when Donald Trump says it's the art of the deal, I think it's art of no deal. It is just effectively making him look like a tyrant in the world right now.
We leave it there. Thank you very much, Dr. Amit Kapoor, economist. Thank you for helping us understand this in greater detail.